Okay, so we're joined today by the wonderful Liam Sheedy, our first guest on the podcast. Liam, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Dan.
I should say straight away, there's no relation here. I'm not sure you claim a Clearman as a relation anyway, to be perfectly honest. But thanks a million for joining us. As in all our podcast episodes, our charity partner is the Tempestry Hospital School, and we're trying to raise awareness for Tempestry Hospital School. And I suppose, given my own limitations as a host, what we asked ChatGPT to do an introduction for you. So I'm going to read out the introduction ChatGPT created for Liam Sheedy. I think you'll like it. So here we go. Today on the show, we're joined by a man who knows more about senior hurling than a hen party in Nina knows about causing chaos. He's managed Tip to glory, led lads into battle with a clipboard and a stair that could cut granite, and maintains a reputation somehow as one of the soundest men in the country. A corporate trainer, a family man who somehow juggles hurling analysis with boardroom nous, and possibly the only man in Ireland who can break down a puck-out strategy and deliver a motivational speech without blinking. Please welcome to the podcast the legend himself, Liam Sheedy. Lord. And that's the best one we've had yet now, to be fair. ChatGPT. So, thanks for coming, Liam. I suppose we'll get straight into it. I've, like most people my age, have followed you for a long time, and anecdotally through sport, and not personally, but we've been exposed to you for a long time. And I remember, you can correct me in the year, but I remember watching you give an interview on the side of a pitch. I think it was a Tip All-Ireland semi, could have been a final. And you were asked about Tip County. It was something to do with the hurling. And I remember vividly you said, well, Portrush first, then Tipperary. I vividly remember that. And I remember thinking at the time, God, that's a bit odd. Like, it's not a club county final. It's not a club All-Ireland final. You were representing Tip, but Portrush came first. And to me, it sat with me for years until last night when I was doing a bit of research for this. I'm only allowed to do one night's research. And it became very apparent why Portrush means so much to you. Like, I didn't realise that you lost your dad at 2. And that your mum wasn't driving. And it was the community of Portrush that brought you to matches. I mean, I thought it was an amazing thing to find out.
Yeah, look, it's a great village, great parish, great community, all those things. And, you're probably right then to get a real appreciation for where you come from, especially if we probably had to lean in a little bit more in Portrush because of the sort of family circumstances, as you said. Dad, Johnny, great, I obviously had great stories about him and a great character and loved his hurling and was a hard-working man and unfortunately was taken way too soon. So, but yeah, I mean, I got to see my first All-Ireland final, I think, in 1981, I think. That time, Offaly and Galway, and Tom Ryan took me like he was one of the neighbours, packed me into the car, and on up to Dublin with my eldest brother Jimmy. So those things really do stick with you. And again, as you're growing up, I suppose a lot of people think about what shapes you and what molds you. And I think obviously your family structure and your parents. That's why like my inspiration in life is without question my mother bid, and obviously the 3 lads had a big impact on me. The brothers they were that bit older than me, but the community like Jim Eden would have been a big impactful person in my life in terms of my journey in hurling. Because, in Portrush, we had a really simple life at that time. I could go down the road 20 yards, jump a ditch, jump another ditch, and I was in Portrush hurling field. And I don't think I could have imagined that community and that little piece of grass down there could have such a big impact on my life. Because, a lot of the skills I have in life and in business and applied in sport, they've all come from that surrounding of being around great people that really took an interest in you, cared a lot about you. And I think the family structure really does shape you. But I think also the people in your community and the community that you live in definitely molds you as well into the person that you become.
I think so, yeah. Like, I mean, I suppose I look at my situation. I live in a small village. You know it well, actually. Newmarket and Fergus. Right beside the hurling pitch. Boss, you've been there yourself. I hear rumours you're coming back, though. There's still prayers in the village at the moment. But I remember, like, I suppose a lot of our listeners will be of leaving cert age, parents of leaving cert ages. And I remember when I was 17, and Newmarket's a great village, similar to Portrush, I'd say, a bit bigger, but, steeped in the GA, steeped in soccer. It was a real sporting village. I love going up in that village, but by the time I came to 17, I was meant to leave, up to college in Galway. And I think a lot of your own daughters have, gone through college now, they're in their 20s. So I think a lot of leaving certs, they lose that sense of community for a few years.
Yeah.
But then, they go to Australia now, they go to Chicago, they go wherever they're going. But then I think if it's been as formation as it was for you and me, you do go back, don't you? Like, you always feel the pull of home.
You do. You always feel the pull of home. And I think that's a great thing about it's lovely to have that community that does draw you back in. And look at, communities, with all the it's hard to keep communities, smaller communities, vibrant, and that's something we're very conscious of in Portrush. We've grown up and we were exposed to such a wonderful environment. But I mean, back in the day, like, you'd be passing up the houses, you could spend all day in another person's house. Like it was a little bit different, and I think communities formed easier, and connections and relationships, and it formed easier in the community of old. I think Portrush 40 years ago was way simpler. Everybody knew everybody else. You felt like everybody had each other.
Were you like us now? You'd leave at 9 o'clock in the morning, you'd gone till 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, and we were the same too. We'd be gone at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Like, we're both parents now. I've a 18-year-old, 15-year-old, 10-year-old. If they're gone for an hour and a half, you'd better
you look at and even if they say they're going for a walk to Gary Kinderson, it's in the right side. You know what I mean? Keeping us through, because like it is different now. There's different things going on. But as I said, Portrush is a great village. But we probably had the freedom of the place. Didn't you? As I said, and especially obviously with Mam was working in the post office, so she was gone all day. So like it was down to me and the Julius, when we had the Teresa's, and in you went and met the lads. And like when Wimbledon was on, we played tennis, and when the Open was on, we played golf, and when Hurling was on and football was on, so we played everything in that same piece of grass. So I think that does really help you.
That brings it an interesting point. Like, I was chatting to Paul O'Connell, actually, who's going to be a guest at some stage, and Paul lives locally here as well, and these kids would have played with my kids in terms of sports, and he would always have been of the opinion, I don't know if he still is, I think hopefully he still is, that you should play as many sports as you can.
Right.
Up until 17 or 18. He maintains, and I do see, like, I've been involved in a little bit of coaching at a few Limerick underage teams, but you do see them being forced to choose a lot earlier now, Liam. At 15, they've been seeing, there is a bit of pressure comes on, I suppose, all kids, if they're very good, because yourself, if you're good at hurling, you're probably good at football and soccer too.
Yeah.
So, like, is there a way, like, we're going to talk in a second about how you managed sport and study and how kids can manage sport and study. It's a big part of what we do at the Tuition Centre, trying to help out sporting organisations. But like, do you think they're suffering a bit from having to choose, let's say, an academy team at 15?
Yeah, I do. I think definitely you get the benefits from, being challenged differently, being, the hand-eye coordination. I mean, going down to in summer down to Yallaris, play a bit of handball, going in sometimes taking the hurleys and use the hurleys. And like, I think all of that, we played soccer, we played football, I don't think you should be limiting. It's less about the particular sport and more about just being really active and taking on different sports, because you might find your niche early on in a particular sport. It might take a little bit of time, and again, I suppose what's number one in the parish will always probably guide you. We never had a rugby club, or we never had a soccer club until late on.
But I think I think it's a great point to make. Like, you look at Gerard Hegarty, who was playing football for Limerick, was never making a team, let's call it, for want of a better way. And like, I see this in my local soccer club a lot as well. Like, the kid who's brilliant at 40, I suppose more importantly, the kid who isn't brilliant at 40, they can be brilliant by the time they're 17 or 18. And your only hope would be to have given up the sport by then.
Yeah, but when you think about growth, like, if you like going in, imagine if the education system came out and said, look, you can only do one subject, and that's it. I mean, like, look at all you'd lose. So you should be take on loads of subjects, and you find then the 6 or 7 that you like, and you go and do them for the leaving. But I mean, with sports, you should be doing the same. Why choose, or why limit yourself? I think the more exposure you can get to different environments and different sports, the better. And you'll eventually land on the one that gives you the biggest kick, and the one that you want to spend the most time on. And again, like, we spend up talking about the top 3% or the elite and the person that's good at everything, but there is only a very, very small percentage of them. Other than that, I'd have a very oversight. Like, in schools, we should be just letting them be active and run around, and you'd nearly be told to stop, to stand in the corner there if you run around. Like, we just ran and took on everything. And like, if you can run and you're active and you can move.
It's very true for you. Myself and my wife were just talking about this last night, would you believe? We were shopping with Ralph, and I picked up a little plastic ball, and I said, do you remember playing murder in the yard? And the lads were running around, and you threw the ball and you hit them. And my wife made a great point. She says, well, they're probably not all over him. Like, to go, do you know though? And we played soccer with a tennis ball, and our old principal in primary school, like, he wouldn't let us play soccer because he was a poor GM, and we when we saw the car pulling up, we changed and we pretended we were hand-fasted the guy, But like, it is about activity no matter what, isn't it?
It is.
And like, you brought a great point, but you brought in the leaving cert perfectly there, which helps me, because I suppose you might not remember, but I actually called you, we were talking about 2 years ago, and we were in the process of setting up something called, which we came up with a name with it. It's called the Team Up Program.
Yeah.
And Tipperary and Murta and all the guys are big into it. And it's taken off fabulously. And the idea we both had was, well, like, it's really hard for a kid to balance sport and study.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're trying to help them with that, and that's another issue.
Yeah.
But if you take leaving certs this year,
Yeah.
and like they're under pressure now. You know, I can see my daughter did it, and we'll come back to daughters in a minute because
Yeah.
you know, we're doing a lot of work about the difference between boys and girls and how they relate to stress and exams.
Yeah.
But it is for anyone involved in any sport, and it doesn't have to be elite sport. I mean, if you're playing, I always maintain, if you're playing County B, a Ireland final, that's as big as any final.
Yeah.
If you're playing County C, it's as big as Anthony. Also,
Yeah.
we're not talking about elite sport.
Yeah.
So anyone who's doing exams, I mean, like, you're a bright man, you know, you've done very well. Did you find it, because you were embedded in hurling, you know,
Yeah.
at a young age, you know, did you find it hard to balance?
Yeah, I did, but you know, I suppose, you know, it's not easy, you know, when you're I suppose I was lucky enough to be on the county minor panel on the year that I was preparing for my leaving cert, and even when I
We
finished,
won't ask you for the year now.
no, but I was 87, so there's the year. That's it. But I think at that time, you know, I think it was really, you know, and even as soon as the school year finished, I was straight in to try and get a summer job. So you'd be up at 6 into chill meets and doing your day's work and hopping on the bus to go for minor training. But I think that part of life was really important. But I probably, you know, I was very, very lucky in terms of my mother never put any pressure on me. You know, she'd encourage me, you know, she'd always encourage me to go to the field, but equally she'd encourage me to knuckle down. And, you know, at that stage, you're getting the smarts to know that if you don't put, you understand if you weren't down training and hurling, you won't be very good at hurling. But if you're not spending some time on the books, you ain't going to be very good at that either. So, like I always say, the day of a match is like the day of the exam. But if you have all the prep done, well, the match goes really well, and it's no different with an exam. And it's trying to get the balance right. But you know, when I look back in there, it's just 168 hours in every week. And if you can get a little bit disciplined around where you want to spend your time, I think we have a lot of time available to us. But we didn't have to deal with, you know, apps or you know, there's an awful lot of distractions.
It's very tough to be a teenager.
It really is tough. It really is tough. You know, there's all, you know, they're getting access to a phone, and there's all of these different worlds that don't really exist. They're being exposed to that type of an environment, and you get to see the world through a different lens, and you think everything is perfect. Everything's far from perfect, and we had it all, warts and all, in Portrush, and you got to understand that. And I think our environments and our parents and our connections really helped us to bring that to life. So, but what I think, you know, I think is really important for parents just to try and give them enough. But like, I never felt under pressure going out playing hurling with Portrush, or I never felt under pressure going into an exam saying you have to get this, you know, and I think that's a really important point. And I say, like, if I think back to my own career, my own life, anytime I felt pressure, I didn't really, you know, that was never good. Pressure's never really good, and sometimes it's people close to you or your own self can start put the pressure on you. You know,
Yeah, they say pressure, most pressure and stress is based on something you can do, you just haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
You know, right? That you can just, if you read something about it, and
Yeah.
like I said, I'm getting older now, and I start to realize a little bit, like, well, if I'm feeling stressed at the end of the day, just think about, well, try and think back to what happened today, because it's probably something very small that you can just do when it's done.
Correct.
But I think it's hard. It is very, very hard for leaving certs. As I said, I've gone through a district with my daughter. I taught Liam for 23 years in school.
Yeah.
And only leaving certs I taught, and I thought I knew it all. I tell my daughter was doing the leaving cert this year. And it's very different as a parent.
Yeah.
And I think the best advice I was ever given was just let them off.
Yeah.
Once they're doing the leaving cert, they're smart enough to know what they have to. They certainly don't need you putting pressure, so they know.
Absolutely. It's like everything, you know, if you do your best and give of your best, and you know, you can look back and say, well, that was my best, and I think that's a really good outcome. And again, probably you know, a story I tell a lot is that when I feel pressure, I always think back, and one of the tools I was given over my career was the gratitude list. You know, so when I start to feel, I can remember going into Crow Park second time round for the All-Ireland final in 2019, 10 years since the last one, and I spoke to Gary and Gary Keegan, who was a good close friend of mine and my performance coach with the team. But he said write down everything you're grateful for. So I wrote down everything I was grateful for, and he said, listen, no matter what happens on Sunday, when you wake up on Monday morning, you still have all those great things, and I completely transformed.
It's funny, I'm not sitting down here, Liam. Like, I think it was 2019, maybe 2021 actually, because I was watching a match. I think it was 2021 was your last year, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And I was watching it on telly, and I saw you come off the pitch, and you did look devastated. And I remember that I did something I'd never done actually.
Yeah.
I sent you a message on LinkedIn. And we recently lost in our family, and my brother-in-law passed away. You'd be aware, he'd be a very well-known sportsman.
Yeah.
And I had seen the devastation of it. And I remember I said, I'm going to message that man now. And I don't know if you remember, you might not. But I just said, look, I said, you looked so devastated. And I remember I said, look, just remember, I said, Liam will be my brother-in-law. He'd love to be going home, having lost a match now.
Yeah.
And you actually said, it's amazing you text me back. And you said, yeah, you said just what you've said there. So it means it really sticks with you. I'm going home to Margaret, Aisling and Jenna.
Yeah.
So it really, like, I wouldn't be easily moved now.
Yeah.
I'm dead inside.
Yeah.
But it really moved me that you kind of, straight after the match, because it was raw that day.
Yeah.
You know, it was a tough day.
Yeah. And that's the thing, emotional. Like there's an emotional event that needs to happen, and it takes a little bit of time to rinse through. But when you're able to stand back and reflect, and I'm a no regrets person. Once I know I've done everything I could and I did the best I could, well then you can't have any regrets at the back of that. Some days it goes. In life, in business, I'm in the business world all the time. I'm in the sport world all the time. If you win every second day, you're lucky. So if you're going in with this view that everything is going to be rosy and it's going to be just straight line up, it's not the way life works. But I think it's the journey and it's the fun along the way. And I think that's where you get the set. I don't think I would have ever got to where I've got to professionally or even in sport arenas only for the times it didn't go well. Because sometimes the days we learn the most is the day where it doesn't go well.
It is, yeah, it's very true. And like, again, I suppose we're conscious, or I'm conscious of the fact that we have a lot of leaving certs listening to this.
Yeah.
And like another man told me once, he said, everybody thinks their neighbour has it better. Now that's true of even men our age. You look at the guy, you say, just look at him in the car, he's doing well, he must have it easy, he probably never rose with his wife, X, Y, and Z. Now if you bring that down, I think, to leaving certs and teenagers that we've spoken about, and they have it tough.
Yeah.
They think it even more so. They think that person in class, they're smarter than me, that girl is prettier than me. Yeah. And because of what they're exposed to, as you said, online, they do feel that everyone has it easier than them. And the truth of the matter is nobody does. Everyone struggles.
Yeah.
And a part of what we're trying to do in the series here is we're going to talk to really well-known people like you've struggled.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like you struggle out there. I mean, the last dad mustn't have been easy to go up without a fall or figure. Life isn't easy.
Yeah.
But life is wonderful.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And it swings and roundabouts, but I do think the two things that I always encourage, young kids especially is, like, just believe in yourselves. Just believe that you can be something. Like there's an Aladdin's lamp inside all of us, and it's not limited to 3 wishes. I'm absolutely convinced of that. And I really love it. Like I suppose if I had it all back again, I should have believed in myself a little bit more. It was only later in life when I really started to work it out, and I was probably a little bit doubt. I was more into self-doubt, and sometimes you'd be saying things to yourself that you'd never say to anybody else. So that little inner critic does kick in from time to time. But if we tell ourselves, I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, if we use the words like can't or I hope, then like just try and say, okay, well, what could I do, or how good could I be? And that's sort of mindset. I think that's a little mindset trigger. And again, the day it doesn't go well, being resilient. As I said, it's never about the setback. It's all about the bounce back from the end. I always say that to and even when the girls were on the trampoline when they were young, I used to get up on the trampoline when I'm out the back. Like when I get up, they go down much slower. So naturally when they go much slower,
they go higher.
Life's the same. Life is the same. Some of my darkest days, especially in the sporting context, when it didn't go well, within 100 days, I was back up maybe at the top of the Hogan stand, or second time around in 42 days. So life, it's not a straight line. The bus comes off the road and, things don't go well for us from time to time. But I would say just to all the kids listening, believe in yourself and what you can become, because we can all do great things. And equally then, where it doesn't go well, just see what can I learn, and we go again. I think those two things, because that's what I really try and instill.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, wouldn't you love to go back?
Yeah.
And tell yourself things like, I'm 45 now, and I was 43 before I released. I found a phrase in an episode of, would you believe it was a series called The West Wing, and the phrase was, it's not that I can't do it, I just haven't learned yet.
Correct. Great.
And I was in my 40s before I could figure it out.
Yeah.
So what I can't do it. I say that to I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I see it in my son, who's 15 maybe. I can't do it that. And like I really wish I could go back into my early 20s even and say, it's not that I can't do it.
Yeah.
I just haven't learned yet, and I will learn.
And I think the other thing is, doing it with a smile on your face. I think that's state of mind. Like, it's very hard for laugh and be in bad form at the same time. you know. And I just think that sometimes, we're caught up in technology, we're caught up in watching what others are doing, just trying to find a way where you can build a bit of laughter. And sometimes at home, I'd say, look, push the phones to one side, and we just have a chat. And what you hear generally is laughter, So just, it just, when there's laughter, like the 2 times we won the All-Ireland, Pat Short came in to the dressing room, and you can imagine what went down for.
I know him. Other Tom is just
But like laughter is a great release of tension, and just trying to find a way where you engage with your friends and you can have a bit of fun. Because every time we went to the field, ultimately what we were doing was having fun. And I think life's all about the journey and having fun along the way, and not feeling like you're under pressure, because pressure is not good for. And there's nobody. If you talk to the most successful executives in business, there's not one of them that don't have the fear of, will I be okay next month or next year? So everybody carries that concern of, oh God, will I ever not be good enough? So there's nothing new in that. That's there, whether it's 17 or 57, people have those type of reservations. But just trying to make sure that you believe in yourself, you enjoy the journey, and if it goes wrong, that you can just focus on bouncing back and learning from it.
Well, fabulous. I mean, geez, Liam, we could be here for 2 hours. You touched on something there that I want to come to, which is career paths. Like you would it be safe to say a kind of unconventional career path?
Probably very safe. That's the difference.
I mean, yeah, I suppose again we're talking about leaving certs, and again I'll speak from personal experience. People will be sick of me talking about this, but like my own daughter was trying to pick a career at 17. She just turned 18 in April of her leaving cert year.
Yeah.
And eventually she made a very wise choice. Said, I'm not going to tell anyone.
Yeah.
I'm going to put down in the form after the leaving cert, change of mind form, so nobody then knows if I haven't got the points.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know what she wants to do, Liam. And she's only 17. But your path, and actually Ashton and Jenna's paths, are phenomenally interesting. But your own path, first of all.
Yeah. Well, again, this was up. I was trying to get straight to income was important for us. In our family. So I thankfully I got in my apprenticeship at the time. So I joined CIE for 4 years.
It was a good job.
It was an apprentice electrician. So I went in there in 87. And I done my 4 years up to 1991. But at first there was no business. But so the apprentices at that time weren't being kept on because things were starting to slow. And then when I went out into the marketplace, you get some work, but then you'd be let go again because housing in the early 90s had slowed a good bit. But anyway, maybe no harm, because the joke at the time was if anybody got the electric chair and they had 3 wishes, it would be to hide wire it, because they'd probably still be alive to following this. Maybe a change of career was no harm. But and then I went into Procter & Gamble on I knew the HR manager in the Breedo, and she said, come in, of 2 weeks holiday cover, and 10 years.
I know you're there.
Yeah, 10 years in Procter and Nina, 93 to 2002. And I left there as the head of supply chain and plan and buying. So, I had a really good, and that's where I learned that, what, if you work hard, you apply yourself, opportunities to take on bigger roles. And I suppose a lot of the companies like that, they're fantastic for promoting from within. So you get the chance to step up. So in 2002, I got an opportunity to join the Bank of Ireland, and that was a big move for me. So I went into life and pensions, and worked my way up to the head of sales and revenue 10 years later with the bank, and then came back and ran the Munster region for the bank. And again, all of that was progression. And
you were balancing that with coaching as well.
I was balanced that with coaching, but that just tells you, so I went from wearing plugs to making out of Ulay and lipsticks to
I was selling pet insurance.
Is it to selling pensions, and then to running a region with 600 people. So it's very hard to know. So for anyone that is questioned, there's a path laid out for us all, and sometimes you just got to roll with it and go with it and take what's in front of you and play what's in front of you.
And you look at Ashley now with Sarah's studio.
Yeah,
I mean, Ashley, that wasn't a career choice when she was 17 or 18, wasn't it?
No. She done business in Germany in UL.
So maybe teaching, she was kind of half looking.
Well, she was looking at she liked the HR route, so she was looking at the the people aspect of it, and the learning and development aspect of it. So she had a wonderful time in her co-op was in Regeneron, gave her a job in the back of it, but herself and her boyfriend wanted to travel. Went to the States, or went to Australia for a year,
as they do,
and had a great time in Sydney. But in parallel, joined a studio that does nanoplasty, which is a certain type of hair straightening, which won't be worrying near you, Dan. But you won't be getting any business out of us.
She tell you here,
yeah, that's right. But I came back and I set up her own business. But I think, she's got the confidence from being over there, and thankfully her business is going really
Right.
It's, I say again, though, there's another example of starting in business in German, going into Regeneron, going to Australia, and all of a sudden now back as a business.
She learned about life.
Yeah, and I think there's sort of like that's the patch. You just got to start to just go with it, because it'll ebb and flow. It's not a straight line. And not for other people, they'll come out.
Jim is a myriad.
Yeah, and for other people, they'll come out. Maybe they'll go into a career and they'll love that career and they'll spend a number of years there. But I think once you apply yourself and once you show up and once you work hard and once you give 100%, you'll be wanted anywhere you go. And that's what I learned in my early days in Procter & Gamble. God, if you apply yourself here, you
Bit of personality helps. See that on.
Yeah, and I was very lucky. I suppose in parallel I was on the sporting side.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of life skills, but also you get a lot of skills that are fully transferable from sport to business. And that's where I was lucky. I got a head start because everything that I was learning in my coaching and in my playing career was completely.
It is transferable.
100% transferable.
I think leadership is leadership, isn't it? We won't go into too much about leadership because it's done to death, I feel, this day, a little bit. But whether you're coaching, I was a teacher, and whether it's Teo or Cancelo, like the ability to inspire is an amazing thing. And I think if you can inspire people, you can be a coach, you can be a teacher, you can be brilliant at sweeping the roads, if you give everything you got to it. And the ability to inspire, to me, is one of the most important qualities you can have, and you have it in abundance, obviously. So, but we did, talking about inspiration, being inspired. I threw a poll in the office last night before you came on, and just people were saying, I said, look, Liam's on tomorrow, anything you want to ask him. And the biggest one was, who were the inspirational figures for you? Like, maybe it was when you were 7, maybe when you're 10, maybe 20. Like, did you have a favorite teacher? Did that teacher inspire you? For me, I was inspired by teachers and went on to a certain career because of it.
Yeah.
But who were that like 5 people in the office? That was their main question. I heard him.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, my mother is my inspiration in life, without question. Thankfully, she lived for 90 great years. To see what she did, I don't know how she managed, talk about the loaves and the fishes. But Sheedy was able to run the loaves and the fishes in a different level altogether, whether it was John's first car or putting Jimmy through college or whatever. So
Mothers are amazing.
Your mother's amazing, just amazing. And again, there was never a question of, don't put yourself out there, you won't be able for that, and that's what that was really, really big for me. So that, I think, and as you said, there was a number of teachers that had a really positive impact on me throughout my career. And I think also there was 1 or 2 where I didn't connect with, and I think
that's fine too.
It is, but I actually think it was no harm, because I get to understand different characters and because if you think that you're connected with everybody, that's not how life works now. So I think that was very, very important. Again, I spoke about Jim Madden, and his impact on me, and I suppose my brothers all would have coached me up along the way as well. Mike, and I suppose losing Jimmy at 47 was a tough moment for us as well. But I always feel that he's still connected to me, because myself and Jimmy were very close, because he was a teacher, so he was off every summer. So I spent all my summers really with Jimmy, which was very special and lovely to look back on. And then probably, when you are being coached, like Paddy Doyle was my minor coach in 1987. Just an amazing man, all people. And when he spoke, everybody listened, and he always spoke sense. He ran a barbershop in Thurles. McMinogue when he passed away recently, was my under-21 manager. Again, I would have learned an awful lot. So I think you get inspired by people from.
You draw a piece out of one as well.
You too. And again, throughout my day, there was very few people who I didn't connect with, and I suppose I've been very lucky. And I think also I've learned a lot of. There was 1 or 2 then, as I said earlier, in teaching, and there also was 1 or 2 in business, so I couldn't really make that connection with. And when that happens, that's a tough period. But actually, looking back on it, all of those experiences, sometimes you learn as much from where it's going, while you say, God, I like that, and I like that, and I like that. And then saying, well, it's not going well over here, when I don't like that, and I don't like that. It's because you need to understand what good looks like for you and how you want to lead. But yeah, I think you should always be looking for inspiration. And plus, I suppose before Caroline Curry came into my world in 2008,
Or would be very well known for her work with the Limerick Raptors. She's just down the road from us here, actually.
Yeah. Well, she's worked with the Limerick Hurlers, she's worked with the Tip Hurlers, she's worked with the Dublin footballers and Tyrone footballers. So
we're open to have her on.
Yeah, but I mean, if you take what she would have given me, in terms of understanding, Liam, you got to be all the time, we're trying to upskill yourself, and the importance of managing your own energy and what I do to make sure my energy is right. But equally then what books I can read. She said Mickey Hart thinks that book, Wooden in Leadership, is a great book. I said, if Mickey Hart thinks it's good, and certainly.
You're a big reader then?
Well, I would. I'd always read a book that I might think I'd get a nugget from, or how I could improve. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, you never stop learning, or you never stop improving, or you never think, oh, I've reached the peak now. That's not the way life works. I mean, at 52, because obviously with our family situation, I didn't get to go to college. I was straight into work and straight into making a salary. So I went back at 52 up close to university and completed my master's in coaching and performance, because I felt all of my, it was all experiential, and I hadn't got the idea.
Must have been daunting to you.
Oh, I tell you what.
People think kids only get scared with exam. Fight to goodness, it's the all, yeah.
I mean, academic writing brought it to a whole new level. I mean, I'd write an article for the Examiner in double quick time. So I'm trying to do academic writing and referencing. It's a different jazz, but I learned a lot, and I also was able to obviously, share my experiences with the room and with my other students as well. So I must say I really loved it, but it was tough going. No, but I think being pushed out of your comfort zone and taking on something new or different is no harm at all. But again, who you tell a friend, and I'll also say, like, sometimes because 80% or 85% or whatever, look, I didn't go to college, and the career path, like, I think for everyone, college may or may not be for everybody. And if you don't feel like that's the path you want to go on right now, well, fine. As I said, it took me 37 years to go back and do it. But
I think it was a while. Like, I think in Ireland there was a period there, I'll try and put my finger up, but I think it was late 90s to probably mid 2000s, when we became a bit obsessed with sending our kids to college. That no matter what, you had to go to third level. I think it coincided with we opened a lot of ITs and stuff, and that was right. There was more access to third level around the country. Yeah. But for me, they were kind of my formative years, and there became a narrative there whereby your child isn't going to third level.
Yeah.
Whereas in the last 4 years, thankfully, it's come back a bit now, and the value of apprenticeships, the value of doing something else.
Honestly,
possibly stop you going to college at 24 now if you want. Oh, 28,
100%. And equally, if some people want to go straight into employment and they have a niche area that they think they could excel in, by all means, try it out. But equally, if it's an apprenticeship, I mean, maybe as you said a few years ago, it was nearly, oh my God, if you don't do it.
It's frowned upon, wasn't it?
Some of the people that are making the biggest earnings in this country and going to take their skills elsewhere off the island of Ireland, their apprenticeship. They start as apprentices. So, like, there's a word, there's something out there for
it. There's an early issue for everyone.
There is, and I think that's why, that's why, I'm all about how do you relieve pressure? How do you say, just go in and do your best, Now, again, it's like anything, if I think I'm going to show up in a match day and I haven't been at training for the 6 weeks previous, whatever you put in, you will get back out. It's like, so you know what I mean? That piece of it is important.
Yeah, cliches are cliches for a reason. Yeah, fail, prepare to fail. Yeah, people are sick of hearing it, but it's there for it. It's the reality. Now, speaking of that, because we won't keep you much longer, we didn't want to talk too much about hurling, in fairness, because you're a far more deeper man than that. And you genuinely have a lot more to offer young people than that, as fabulous as it is, to be fair. And I think anyone who's listening will have heard, there's a phenomenal amount to be gleaned from listening to someone like you. But we kind of wanted to have a bit of fun as well.
That's allowed.
So I have a little heading in front of me here, which is hurling greats. Now, we're not going to give you much time between each one. So each time you're going to have a pick between two players. And we'll move on and we'll move on and we'll move on and we'll move on. But don't worry, I have a tip lad in here.
Have you?
Oh yeah. Being from Clare myself, I had to put 2 Clare lads in. We have a couple of Limerick lads, a couple of Kilkenny lads, and a couple of lads you work with. So this won't be easy now, all right? But we give it a lash. So we'll start easy anyway. Jamesy O'Connor or Ben O'Connor? Jamesy O'Connor or Gerald Hegarty?
Go away.
Gerald Hegarty or Henry Shefflin? Shefflin or TJ Reid?
Ooh,
tough one.
Sorry, Henry, it's TJ.
TJ or Joe Kenny?
TJ.
TJ or Patrick Hurling?
TJ.
TJ or Owen Kelly? Do you see the way I look at ourselves? Do you see the way I left that one too late on it?
Owen is the king.
Amazing. Owen Kelly or Tony Kelly? Owen Kelly or Keith Lynch? Owen Kelly. Almost amazing we arrived at a tip head. Well, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. So,
but I mean, very bad. It's generation time for hurlers. TK.
They're amazing now.
Hoggy. TJ Reid is just, he really is incredible.
Longevity too.
Yeah, he really is incredible. Really is incredible. And again, it's tough for him there last year's lose that C7, but I mean, what he's done in the game has been incredible. But when you see, I just hope that the current structure is really tough on players. I just hope that we're able to continue to generate players that can play for fit.
You mean the Canada's getting hard now, isn't it?
Well, there's so much going on between the tight schedule and then if your club goes really well, so you're nearly on. There's very little room for a break. And like if we think about what Noel McGrath, Joe Canning, Tony Kelly, Henry Sheff, but Patrick Horgan, look at the longevity. And I mean, you'd hate to see the likes of Darren McCarthy, who's coming in now with 20, not to be still paying
35 or 36. See, Jack Conlon's still going now.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So that's the thing, because like some of the players coming through are as exciting as what we've seen in the last number of years. So please God, as I said, that longevity is really important.
Yeah, well, we'll hope to clear that, Stu. Now,
Oh yeah.
More important than that. Two last questions, and I'll let you go on. I know I kept you a bit long. So
all right.
First one is, and this was three members of staff asked, would you run for president, Liam?
No.
You definitely wouldn't.
No, definitely.
You'd have a great shot.
I would not have a great shot. You'd have a watching happy out in the village of Portrush.
Yeah, that honestly be a bit big, would it?
Yeah, honestly. And I'm very lucky. I mean, I get to work with, I still do a little bit of coaching and with sports teams. I never come off the pitch in bad form. I love the work that I do, which is working with senior leaders and senior leadership teams. And so there's a lot of variety in my day-to-day role, but it is all interacting with people and trying to deliver optimum performance. And that's something that,
I saw you coach once.
Yeah.
I was out in my home village, Newmarket, and my little boy was only about 7. And I said, we go down to Hurling pitch on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock because the kids train. And we walked in and the kids weren't trained. It was Newmarket senior team. And you were training them. And at that time, I was going around studying coaches. I had an interest in coaching. So I went over to Man United and watched a bit of coaching. And I was lucky enough to get into Munster. So I was trying to be a student of coaching. I enjoyed watching coaching.
Yeah.
And I did think that was the most intense session I've seen. We sat for the full hour watching it. Like you didn't give them everything was moved from one grid to the next grid to the next grid to the next grid. It was unbelievably intense. It's no wonder you're successful at it.
Well, look, so was the matches. Last Sunday was fairly intense above in Croke Park. So,
and that was just beside it.
Yeah, but again, it's back to if you've the work done in inside the white lines in training, you've a better chance to do it on match day. But it's great to be in with a group of people who just respond well to giving everything. And I think that's an important part of it. And yeah, in fairness, I'd be lucky enough. That's all I ever ask for. If I walk into the middle of a group, just give me 100% and we'll see how we get on here. But enjoyment's an important part too, But sometimes, you have to have the hard work to really get the level of enjoyment because you've actually tested yourself. And, being in environments like that is, you never get to care in bad form, honestly.
I'd say you're never in bad form, Newbert. Well, we'll finish with this because we're going to speak our audience's language now. So, as well as I do, we speak a certain language of a similar generation.
Certainly do.
But my kids, Gemma and Aisling probably are a little bit above this, but I bet you they'd still know some of the terminology. So, when I give you 3 quotes that we know Liam Sheedy likes to say, and we're going to translate it into Gen Z language is probably the correct term, but language that our Leave Insert listeners might understand. So, this is simple stuff. So, I give you the first one first. That was a great performance.
That was straight fire, no cap.
Good one. Look, we need to improve.
We can't be out here flopping, lads.
And my favourite one is the best one. Gerald Nan only stays in the finest hotels.
Generally checks into places that scream bougie energy.
Thanks a million, Liam.
All right, Dad. Thanks a million.
I'm really grateful for covering that. We could have stayed at least for another hour. I certainly could have stayed for another hour anyway. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're top man.